Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm at the ranch. Today is Friday, June 26th, 2015. And I'll just do a little update. We'll talk a little bit. Some of the issues that I've been discussing fit in with the Supreme Court rulings. They ruled this week, yesterday, and today on some very hot topics: the gay marriage and Obamacare. One of the other challenges. A lot of the issues that you hear about, um, you don't want to. I was just listening to the news. I haven't really read any of the news sites. I don't have internet connection out here, so I've just been listening, talk radio and stuff. But I'm pretty familiar with it. The Obamacare challenge, if you did a literal reading of the man who challenged it, it would have won. The challenger would have won. You learn a lot. When there was some wording in Obamacare. Let's talk just a few minutes. I'm not against health insurance. I'm not a conservative, nor am I a liberal. But there was some wording in the Obamacare law that said if states do not embrace and make their own exchanges, health insurance exchanges, then they will not be eligible for federal money. It's windy, so I'm going to try and get it right behind the wind. So anyway, the law said, the Obama law, those that don't even familiar with these things, they don't. That's the problem we have in our country. Just be familiar with stuff. Everything is not always the other side's the devil. But in the law itself, the Obamacare law, it basically said the states that do not set up their own health insurance exchanges, they're not eligible for federal money. It's very clear. It's just very clear wording. And the reason that was done, it's not a secret it was done this way. The reason it was done was uh, the federal government wanted to pressure the states to set up their own exchanges, healthcare exchanges. Now, at the time when it passed, they didn't know how many states would be willing, because that was the little, carrot and stick. If you set your exchange up, then the people in your state are eligible for the subsidies. The federal government will give so much money to help subsidize the insurance for the people in your state. So I forget how many states, about 30 states never set up their own and said, no, we ain't going to do it anyway, you run it. And the other ones set up their own exchanges. Well, they didn't know how many were going to do it or not. So when the states, so many did not set up their own exchanges, like Texas and others, they kept paying anyway, because they would have destroyed the whole Obamacare law if you didn't subsidize those people. And so some guy, I forget, I think it was Burwell or something, he saw it. It was quite obvious, and he took it all the way to Supreme Court. Now the court ruled against him, and they let Obamacare stand the way it is. But it was interesting when you watched that, regardless of your view, if you're pro universal coverage, anti, if you watched it, it gave you a little lesson in lying and semantics, because one of the challenges that the Obama side made when it went to the Supreme Court in the beginning was, that's just a typo. We put it in real quick. They were lying. It's not the first time anybody, but you go before the Supreme Court, you shouldn't have done that. But they lied about that in some of their initial arguments. How'd you know they lied? It was obvious that it was put in there, because then they had the videos of that guy who they also denied they knew him. They lied about that. But they had the videos of Jonathan, I forget his name now, but Gruber. Jonathan Gruber, I think is his name, MIT professor, who really did help with the Obamacare. And they lied. He never helped us. He was hired, they paid him about $500,000. He didn't get $500,000 for nothing. And the reason this last year Obama and Pelosi and others said, "Oh, we don't know him. He's lied about that." You got to be careful about the lying. Whether you're a conservative or Republican, you lose trust of people. And the reason they disclaimed him is because he was going around on video telling people, It's a good thing that the American public are basically idiots because the way we pass this law, it's really a tax, but we could never say it. And in one of the videos, he says, and the reason we specifically put in the law that the states that do not set up their own exchanges will not receive federal subsidies is because we're trying to pressure those states. So it was quite obvious that's what they were doing, but they argued before the court, said that's a typo, we don't know this man. And everybody knew that they were lying on that, even the Supreme Court justices. I mean, it had to be obvious. But they kind of just passed that and said, no, we're not going to, we're going to let Obamacare stand. But I'm not against, the system's got a lot of problems, but it was just the seeing of it. And then the other side that was very liberal, very democratic, they would say, no, he didn't lie, and everybody this. But it was obvious. Regardless of your position, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. And a lot of the people on both sides do not inform themselves, or they cannot see through. And so I'm going to deal a little bit, regardless of your position, the gay marriage thing. There's something when you argue and do debate and logic, it's called a straw man. Straw man is this. You basically say, oh, they want to, who are they to say, you can't do a certain thing? And maybe the other side, whatever debate, never said you can't do a certain thing. But you set that argument up that way. And if people are not informed, then they agree with that side. And in the gay marriage debate, I'm not anti-gay. I'm not pro-gay. I just believe that there are many issues that we deal with in society. And the true debate was not a religious debate. But I heard on the radio, listen to talk radio, they had various people on and saying people should not force their religion upon other people. I agree with that. But if you were smart, that was not the debate about forcing your religious belief. Okay, you say, John, surely it was. No, it wasn't. There's something, I read a paper when I was in New York a few years ago. It was a bishop's letter circulated to all the dioceses and all in the area that I was going to the church at the time up there. But it made the argument and said it's actually an argument from natural law. So I don't want to hit on, are you against gays, for gays, are you against this or for this? The basic argument is this, and this is some of the philosophy posts we've been doing. How do you set up any law? A lot of people say that you cannot legislate morality. This is very common. You hear people that are in office say, the definition of law is the legislation of morality. Wait, you mean there's smart people, John, in office? Smart people that claim to be intellectuals that actually say it's impossible to legislate morality, but the definition of law is, quote, the legislation of morality? Okay? Any law, any society develops, is the legislation of right or wrong. If I tell you it's wrong to do 70 because it says 60, you just legislated morality. Think, be smart. All law is the legislation of morality, whether you call it that or not. The question in natural law, or how do societies develop law, the question is, what law should we use? Should we use majority rule? Should we use what everybody agrees upon? You can have what's called the tyranny of the majority. There's a time in this country where it was law, and the majority of people were happy for black people to be treated less than white people. There was a time in this country, but that was wrong. But yet it was considered majority at a certain point. The majority did want blacks to be less, and the court itself, the Supreme Court, agreed with it. I gave you those cases over the years. There was a debate one time Senator Barbara Boxer was on the House floor, and this is when Rick Santorum. See, me just mentioning Rick Santorum, people that don't think will say, "Oh, yeah." Forget about personalities. Think. Don't be stupid. We have laws in this country to protect young children, and somebody told me there was some a while ago that there was some arrest that somebody had uh, raped in like one of the online things this a few years ago, like an infant. And they had a video, and he raped like a 3 month old girl, which is a horrendous thing. I think everybody listening would agree with that. Why do we have laws to protect 2 month old girls from being put online in pornographic images? Why are there laws against that? Because that could lead to the destruction of that child, even to the death of that child. What about a 1 month old? Would it be illegal? Would most society? Yes, because it could lead to the great destruction and abuse of that 1 month old. What about a 2 day old little girl? 2 day. Do we have laws against posting pornographic pictures of that girl? And of course we do, because it could lead to the harm. What do you mean harm? It can hurt the person physically, emotionally, mentally. In extreme cases, it could lead to that little child's death, a 2 day old. What about a 1 day old? It's hideous. What about an 8 month, 364-day old? With the brains sucked out, abortion, legal up to the 9th month, 3rd trimester. Take the arm off, separate it. This country, the law says it's a wonderful, beautiful act that's celebrated as the freedom of a woman's right to her own health care. Now, do you think, before you rage on either side of any issue, if you're against, which I hope you are, a 1 day old being just put on the computer in a pornographic way because it could lead to the tremendous harm to that child, and you take that child 1 second before it was born, and it's a wonderful right to some of you to dismember it, to suck the brains out, which would be the worst damage that can be done to that child. And it's a wonderful, beautiful right. I was talking to somebody one time, and a few years ago, the person said they knew another person who had a retarded child, and the other person raised that child, and everybody knew the child. I won't give the names of people, but in the debate, they said, how dare anybody, this was a very liberal person, believed in liberal politics and abortion, everything, outraged against, those who would dare challenge anything. And they said, who's got the right to make that poor other mother have to raise that child and spend their life? And this was a very liberal person making an argument, smart person. And that mother had to spend her right, all her years taking care of that kid. Who would ever want something like that, to put something like that? They were arguing for abortion. And I said, let me give you the other side. We both knew the lady who had the retarded child. I said, she loves that child. That child is her child. She shows affection. She sees it as a human being. I said, in your liberal mind, your argument, you just represented that child as less than human, like she had to take care of some animal. So in our views, if you want to protect life, you want to protect rights, where do we come to law? How do we decide what's right and wrong? This is a lot we were discussing. And ultimately, natural law means there are certain things that we know in society, because these were revealed to us from God, that are right and wrong. And there are certain things that go against, quote, the law of nature. I'm not going to discuss, I have gay friends, there are certain physical aspects of the sex act that are simply less healthy than other acts. And if you consider sex in somebody's ear to be something that you really think is something that gets you off. You say, well, it's sex in the ear, and if somebody were to say, look, the ear orifice was not made for that type of sex, but then over time you had a whole bunch of people that really liked getting off that way, and you had a lot of problems with ears and things, but then you said finally, who are you to say that that's an unhealthy thing? Regardless of any view of anything, the physical act itself would be unhealthy. And some of the debate against gay marriage and things, some of them have nothing to do with your religious view, whether the Bible says a certain thing. Some of them have to do with that, issues like that. And people don't comprehend. I don't, I'm not, the gay marriage ruling has not upset me at all. I'm not one of those that was like, oh, how dare. It didn't faze me one bit, didn't upset me at all. It's the intellectual, the people that try to make arguments, they don't understand. The simple thing I showed you today, I would go a little deeper, but I don't know if I can. The simple thing I showed you today, that all law is the legislation of morality. We say 70 is the speed limit. It means don't do 100. Why not? Who are you to tell me not to do 100? Because it's harmful, you can hurt. It's based upon the protection of society and others. Uh, I had, it's just interesting that people don't realize. I do not believe that, I don't associate uh, gay people who today are getting married and get licenses and so forth. I don't associate them with NAMBLA, which is the North American Man Boy Love Association, which they advocate for sex with young children. Most of you would say that's just wrong. I would ask you, how do you know it's wrong? I agree with you that it's wrong, but how do you know it's wrong? Some states, I think you can marry at 17. Others, maybe you got to be 18, or the law, it differs in societies. So, where do we get these things from? Where do they come from? Do you know the majority of people that would be against the North American Man Boy Love Association, which I'm against, but they would defend the gay marriage argument by simply saying it's consenting adults. Okay, where did you get that idea from? But I agree with you. There's certain things consenting adults. Would you agree with sex between any consenting adult? Yes, I guess if they're consenting. What about a brother and a sister? Oh no, that's wrong. Why? Why is that wrong to you? I'm not agreeing with sex between an adult brother and sister. There's this, I believe the state of New Jersey allows you to have that. I could be wrong on that because I wasn't looking it up. But there are arguments. Then why would you not have a consenting sexual? Well, because it could be harmful to the child. Okay, well, what about if they didn't have children? Could you? Everybody has some morality that they don't even recognize that they're trying to impose upon somebody else. There's a young, there's cases where daughters say, "Oh, I love my dad, and we're going to get married," and they're both adults, and that's illegal in certain places, and they're arguing. There are actual cases. Maybe a 21-year-old, I forget the age of the case I heard this last year, says, I'm 21. He's my father. He's 56. We're in love. He divorced mom, and we're going to get married, and we have sex. Now, they're both adults. Use protect. You would still say it's wrong. Why? You have some degree of morality that you're using. I was going to tell a few funny jokes, but I don't know if I'm in the mood to tell them. Yesterday, I spent the whole day helping out the guys. I was glad. And I'll share maybe a couple. One of the street preachers hasn't seen me around in a while on the streets. And I spoke once, not Brother Ray, but another one, those of you who know this, Brother Dave, and he was worried, about something, I'm not sure. He wanted me to come see him again, but then he wanted to inform me, like somebody slandered him or something. And I kid him a little bit. I'll tell this one, lighten it up. So anyway, he said, well, I want to let you know before, people are talking about me, John. I said, oh, what are they saying, Well, I had 3 watermelons. I'm not making fun of you, Dave, if you watch the videos. But he said they were donated for his food ministry. He feeds the guys. And he said, I ate one because I was hungry, but I was going to buy another one. And I quoted, well, the Bible says the labor is worthy of his hire, Dave. I wouldn't worry about it. But he was worried because the next day somebody found out he ate the one watermelon that was donated. And they said something. They asked him, they said, how many watermelons do you have left? I don't know how they knew. He said, 2. I got 2. And they said, didn't you have 3? So he had to confess he ate that watermelon. Well, then the word got out. Dave ate the watermelon. So now I'm kidding him. And I'm telling him, oh, Dave, I said, I heard about it. He said, you did? He said, worried, I said, yes, I read it. Somebody wrote it in an editorial in the paper. Didn't you see it the other day? They put it in there as like a letter to the editor that Dave from the homeless ministry, he ate one of the So I was kidding him. I told him, Dave, I said, some scholars believe that the sin unto death is actually, well, you got it. You ate the 3rd watermelon. And it was bugging him. And then I was with a friend. We had a whole full day. John was with another friend named John. And then we were talking about a lot of stuff. I said, look, when you're in ministry, I said, John knows a lot of the stuff that's happened. I said, if Brother Dave's worried about people saying he ate a watermelon, I said, he's got a long road ahead of him. There's going to be a lot more than that's going to happen. We had a full day. And I told my friend John, I was helping John. I figured I'll put one day in on the streets. And so I helped a lot of guys. And I said, I'm going to come up here today, talk with you guys. I'm getting ready to go to New York, New Jersey. So I want to reconnect a little bit. And I told John, I said, but today I'm going to give my time to the guys, which means some of them are going to just want to talk. And I sat with Dirk that day and the day before, and I just let Dirk talk. Maybe 2 hours. Dirk, 2 of my friends have hearing problems. A lot of and they have speech impediments, some of them. A lot of people don't have time to listen. I just listen. I'll listen for 2-3 hours. It's okay. I said I'm going to do that a little bit. Then I had John. He needed a ride to the post office. I said, I'll take you, John. And helped him. I never asked for money for gas. I took care of Dirk's dog when Dirk was in jail for 8-9 months. He told me, oh, you can have money for, to take care of the dog, because I had his card, because he didn't want to give his bank card to anybody on the street, but he trusted me. He said, but you can use money for the dog, for Gunner. I said, no, I won't ever take money out of it, and I didn't. I just transferred money to his trustee account in jail during those 8-9 months. And I took John, and then we went and visited a friend, Mike, and Mike's relationship problems. But I sat with Mike, maybe 2 hours. My friend John, I could see, he didn't want to stay any longer, and it was hot and all. But I sat on purpose, that was what I was going to do that day. Spent the whole day. I had Pops calling me, and it was a good day. And a lot of people struggle, go through things. When I was at the beach, I don't know if I'm going to like this. When I was at the beach with the guys the other night, it's funny. I'm going to have some of my friends maybe talk a little bit. Those vets, they got some interesting stories. But one of my friends, he's on Facebook. I won't say his name. Maybe he'll watch it, but I was kidding them. They know I kid around a lot, those guys. And they knew told them I just got my VA insurance. Now, I got kicked out of the Navy, so I probably am happy that I got it, but I met the requirement, I guess, I don't know. But then one of my friends was telling me, who's the vet, he said he's got a whole thing on his site or something about stolen valor, fighting those guys that are always getting the fake medals and all. And I said, oh, it's a good thing you told me that, brother. I said, because the way I got my VA, because you knew I got kicked out of the Navy, I said, I went to some site, a stolen valor site. You get all these fake documents. That's how I got my VA. I was kidding him. I didn't do that. Today's just brief, talking a little bit about issues. One time, Senator Rick Santorum, he had the picture of a wonderful, beautiful baby in pieces, just under 9 months, aborted. Put that picture up on the House floor, Senate floor years ago. Just a picture. Can you judge whether that's a human or not? And he asked Miss Boxer, all my wonderful liberal friends, you're for the rights of people. Think, become smart. And he said, is that a human being? Is that a child? It's a perfect picture of a child. And she said, that's not my decision to make. But you could decide other things. You can say certain things are acceptable to you, Miss Boxer, whoever you are. We begin, and I'm going to end in a few seconds here. We begin with the understanding that all law is the legislation of morality. And regardless of your views on these recent issues, I was not a real anti-marriage guy. Didn't faze me one bit, to be honest. Okay? Some of my Christian friends would be mad. But the argument, the intellectual argument, be aware of it. Every society has some form of law. How does it come? Should we protect that beautiful baby, that Rick Santorum? Whether you like Rick Santorum or not has nothing to do with it. See, if you're a liberal and you say, just Rick Santorum, I couldn't listen to him, therefore I hate him so much, let's kill the baby. If that's your view, I'd like to say, you are just as politically motivated as the people you hate on the other side. So let's become aware. One time, well, I won't tell that one. I told a little watermelon story, and Pilate said to Jesus, what is truth? What is truth? The philosophers debate on what is it. They debate it. What is reality? In general, we understand that there are things that are true and things that are wrong, things that are right, things that are wrong. We understand that. And I do not want to impose my religious beliefs on anybody. But it's a religious belief not to kill a 6-year-old child. It's a religious belief. 10 Commandments say that's wrong. You say, John, I think it's wrong because of what? Why do you think it's wrong? Of course it's wrong to kill a 6-year-old. Where do you get that from? Say if you were in a society that the majority of people said, no, we think it's right to kill 6-year-olds. You say, I still think it's wrong, John. Question why you would think it's wrong. So when you get into all these debates, today we had the cases I mentioned, everybody has some moral foundation. They make decisions whether they understand it or not based upon some type of belief that they have picked up somewhere along the line. And in the thinkers that debate it, those of you that do follow philosophy and all, some have said it's simply what society decides. That don't work either. Because I give you those cases. There are times where the society decided it was good to treat blacks less than whites. And it didn't make a difference whether the Supreme Court, Governor Christie of New Jersey, I'm almost done, I heard him on the radio give the comment. He said, a bunch of judges with black robes have no right to. A lot of these comments are political. But there's a question. I quoted Montesquieu the other day. But Montesquieu talked about the separation of powers, okay? The thinker from France in the 1700s. And judicial, legislative, and executive. There's a question whether or not the Supreme Court can even have this type of power. That's an actual legitimate question people have. I think if we become informed in society, if you see a Republican or a Democrat, and they hired some professor from MIT by the name of Jonathan Gruber, and he's going around on video saying, we made the health law a certain way. We put it in there on purpose. And then, of course, the wording is in there on purpose. And then you have that same president and his Justice Department and his lawyers argue before the court that that was a misstatement. They did. I don't care what side you're on. If you can't see that that's wrong, then you're just as politically addicted in your mind as the conservatives that you hate, or vice versa. Okay, I don't know what I'll title this one. I want to bless you guys today. This is the ranch. I stood under this little thing here, makeshift thing. I'll post this tomorrow. And before I go to New York, New Jersey in a few weeks, I'll try and get with some of my street crew a little bit more. I want to bless you guys today. I want you to understand that these issues of life and rights, the most fundamental right is the right of life. John, why are you so anti-abortion? I saw pictures of all these aborted babies right when I became a Christian. Actual pictures. You can see these pictures online. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. And if you do not start with the fundamental right to life, the right to life, the protections we have for children, and these things I discussed, it's to protect kids. And the ultimate harm to any of these children would be their murder. But to dismember them, to call that a right, we have problems. We have problems. I want to bless you guys today, okay? And hopefully I'll talk to you in a few days.